everyone! So now that we've looked at some of the different filters that there are in Photoshop, you are going to get a chance to play with all of these. So let's get to it. Alright, so the first thing you need to do is open your own image in Photoshop. This can be something, one of the photos you took from the photo project, or if you're not really happy with any of those, you can use something else that you've taken. So now that we have it open here, the first thing we're actually going to do is go to File, Save As. So let's go ahead and go up here to File and Save As. And we are going to name this very specifically last name, first name, underscores between everything, GRC31 underscore filter project underscore working. So we're naming it working so that we know that this is a file with all of our layers and we can easily come back to it. While we're here, we can actually decide which folder to put it in. So I'm actually going to come back to my desktop where I have my GRC31 folder sitting. And if you need to create a new folder here, that's fine. I have a folder right here for this because I already did this and my computer crashed. So I'm going to go ahead and click save. And because I already did this once, it's actually going to ask me if I want to replace it. I'm going to go ahead and say yes. This isn't going to happen with yours probably unless you've already done one and your computer crashed, but yeah. Alright, so moving forward. So now we have it saved as its own file. This is great. First thing we're going to do is we're going to create a guide layout to help us organize all of the images we're about to create. So we're going to go to View and New Guide Layout. Now for this, we're going to go ahead and put in 3 for the columns, turn on rows and click 3 for rows. No gutters. Now gutters are the little areas between the guides here, so it creates like a double guide thing. We're not going to worry about that for this project. And 0 there. Go ahead and click OK, and what you should see is your file has been broken up into 9 rectangles, or if you had a square image, it would be squares. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and make 8 copies of this image, and this is because we're actually going to be applying a different filter to each copy, so we want a total of 9. Now there's a couple of different ways we can make copies. First, I need to go ahead and click on this little lock to unlock the layer. Now I can just go ahead and click and drag this down to the little plus sign. Another way is to hit Command J. So I'm going to hit Command J. I've got 2, I need 7 more. So I'm going to hold down Command and click J 7 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sweet, I've got all my copies. Alright, now the next thing we need to do is make sure that we're converting all of these layers to smart objects so that when we apply a filter, and if we need to go back to it later and readjust the filter, we can. So I can do this a couple different ways. I can either right click and click on Convert to Smart Filter. The other way is to go up to Filter menu and what's it called? Convert for Smart Filters. Now it's grayed out right now because the layer I'm on has already been converted to a smart filter. But if I click on this layer here and come back, I can now click on Convert for Smart Filters and click OK. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video for a moment and do each one of these because it does, take a few seconds. I'm not going to make you guys wait through all that. So go ahead and pause the video as well and convert all of your layers to smart objects. Alright, so I've converted all of my layers to smart objects. You can see there's this little icon in the corner. Looks like a couple pieces of paper or something. So that's telling me that these are all smart objects now. We can move on to the next part of this. So now I need to select all of our layers, and then we're going to transform them all into and make them smaller so they fit into one of these boxes. So right now I have my layer 0 selected. If I hold down Shift and click on the top layer, it's going to select all of my layers. Whoops, what did I do? There we go. All right. Now that I have them all selected, we're going to go ahead and free transform them. We can do this a couple different ways. We can either hit Command T, or we can come up here to Edit and free transform. All right, so now I can go ahead and, oh, before I do this, let me go ahead and hit the no real quick. I want to double check something. So we're going to go up here to View, and you can see that I have Snap turned on. Then there's a Snap To menu. I want to make sure my Snap To menu has guides checked. If it's not checked, click once and it will check the guides. And I want to make sure that Snap is checked on. So if you don't have a check mark there, just click on it once and the check mark will come up. This is so that when we're resizing, it's actually going to snap or kind of like stick to the to the actual guides and help us have better selections or a better transformation. All right, so let's go ahead and hit Command T to go into free transform, and I'm just going to click and drag this down here, and I believe it has snapped. All right, coolio. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in just a bit by hitting Command plus a couple times. And I'm going to hold down my space bar to bring up my move tool and click and drag so I can take a look and make sure that it is fitting in there. It's looking great. So now I can either hit return, enter, or I can hit the little check mark here. And it's going to resize all of these down. Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and zoom back out a bit. I can hit Command minus a couple times, or I can hit Command 0 and it's going to fit to the screen. So now that I have all of these, I need to select one by one, and I'm going to move them to the different spaces here. So this first one, so I clicked on this layer here, and I'm going to click and drag. Now moving on to the next layer, and as you're clicking, you'll notice that it kind of, once you get close to one of these guides, it snaps. That's what that snap does. And you can see that the guide turns pink. So that's what we're looking for here. Oops. Switch layers. Switch layers. All right, and last one. All right, there we go. Now it's time to move on to the next part. All right, so we moved all the tools. All right, let's go ahead and do a quick save. You can either go to File, Save, right here, or you can hit Command S. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Command S, and you'll notice that if you just save and you're not sure if you saved or not, if you come back up to File and look at the save, you can see it's grayed out. That's because we just did it. So we know we've saved it. Yay. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and apply a filter of your choice to each of these layers. You're going to use a different filter for each layer. And when you're doing this, I want you guys to be renaming your layers. This is going to become important in a couple of steps because we're actually going to add the name of each filter you use over each image to kind of create like this little filtered cheat sheet for yourself. All right, so I'll do the first one. Let's go ahead and click this one. I'm going to come up here to filter, and oh, what do we have here? My filter gallery is grayed out. Do you guys remember why that would be? Okay, so if you said that it's because I'm in a 16-bit image, you're completely correct. So what I need to do is come over here to Edit, and Image, and go to Mode. And right here in mode, we're seeing that we're in the 16-bit channel mode. So let's go to 8 bits. I'm going to click there. It's going to think for a minute as it's converting it over. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and start adding filters to each of these layers. Remember to rename your layers. This is important so you remember what you did. Once we're done, I'm going to go ahead and then come back and we'll move on to the next step. So pause the video and start adding filters to each of these layers. Alright guys, so I hope you had some fun playing with all kinds of different filters. I know I did. Sometimes it's just, filters have all kinds of different uses in Photoshop, but sometimes it's just fun to play around a little bit. So yeah, hope you had fun. Alright. So continuing on, our next step is going to be to add some black rectangles, but before we do that, actually I want to, if some of your filters ended up leaving some empty spaces like you're seeing here, then something important for you to know that when we're saving as JPEG, any areas that are transparent in Photoshop will actually become white. So if we want to leave a white background, we don't have to worry about it. For what I'm working on, I think I'd rather have a black background. Now another option is if you wanted to just resize some of these so that they're filling the entire space, you could totally do that too. I'm fine with that. But I'm going to go ahead and add a black background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and I'm going to go ahead and hit click on this plus sign here. That's going to make a new layer. And I want to make sure I click and drag this layer all the way to the bottom. All right, there we are. And now I'm going to fill it with black. There's a couple ways we can do that. We can go to Edit and then Fill. We can also hit Shift Delete. So let's go ahead and go here for Contents. I'm going to choose black. You can also choose whatever foreground or background colors you have set, or you can choose whichever color you want with the color picker. So I'm just going to come here to black and click OK and OK. And now I have a black background. We're looking great. All right, so next thing we're going to do is add some black rectangles, and we're doing this because we're going to be adding them along the bottom of each of these rows, and then we're going to be adding text over it so we can know which filter we used on each image. So first off, we need to bring up our rectangle tool. Now, if you don't see it over here, it just looks like a regular old rectangle. It's probably in your More Tools section. So if I click and hold down on these three dots, it's going to bring up all the different tools that I have available to me that are hidden right now. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that rectangle tool. And I'm just going to start at the bottom and hit Command minus once. Alright, just to start outside and pull this over here. About right there should be fine. Okay, and so we're not seeing the rectangle right now. Can anybody guess why? It's because of our layer order. It's being hidden underneath all of these other layers. So all I have to do is come over here and click and drag it to the top of my layers. And you see that little blue line that's appeared there? That's telling me that it's going to be placed up there. So I'm going to let go, and now we can see our rectangle. I'm going to go ahead and switch my rectangle to black. If you wanted to use white, that's fine too. We're actually going to be taking the opacity down on this so we can see through it. But yeah, it kind of depends on the images that you're using and what's going to look best. So I'm going to click black. If black isn't here, there's all kinds of different colors right here. Or you can always click right up here, and this will bring you to your color picker tool where you can go ahead and drag over. And for the stroke, I don't want a stroke, it's like an outline. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on this no, it's like a rectangle with a red line, means no fill, no stroke. You don't want that. All right, so I've got my rectangle now. Now we need to copy it a couple times because we want to also have one here and one here. So I can do this by duplicating the layer. Another way, if you guys remember, is by holding down Option Alt and clicking and dragging. Now I got to make sure I'm in the Move tool, so I'm going to go ahead and click on there. Then I'm going to hold down my Option Alt key. And now you see this little double arrow here. That means I'm good to go. I can click and drag on the rectangle and it's going to make a copy. So I'm going to click and drag up. And now you're seeing that bottom or that guideline become that magenta color. That means it's snapped there. Perfect. All right, and I'm going to do it again. I'm just holding Alt and Option and doing the same thing. There we go. And we have our rectangles. Okay, so next we're going to use a text tool to add the name of each of these. So let me do the first one. So here's my text tool. I'm going to go ahead and I don't want it to be like that because then it's going to be inside the rectangle. So let's go ahead and click undo, Command Z for undo. I'm just going to start right up here so it doesn't put the text If I do it that way, it's just going to have that text only in the rectangle. I want to be able to move my text around. So instead, I'm just going to click up here and add my text here. So this first one was, oh, there it is, stained glass. Hey, good thing I named my layers right. So let's go ahead and type in stained glass. Now I'm going to go ahead and use white for my font. So I'm going to get Command A to select all, and I'm going to click on this little red square here that'll take me to my color picker, and I'm just going to drag up here to white. And I'm going to change this up. Now this is going to be more for my reference, so I really don't need like a decorative type of font. I really just need something that I can read really well. So Arial Black may work fine. I'm actually going to use Impact. Okay. Next I need to move and then resize this text so it fits within my rectangle here. So we can do this a couple different ways. I can come here and click to change the different sizes. I can actually select this and put in a specific number if I want. You can also free transform, Command T. So let's go ahead and move. I clicked back on my move tool so I can go ahead and move this down here. This is looking pretty nice, and you can see these magenta lines. It's letting me know that it is centered in these two different ways, so that's really nice to have on. Alright, so now I'm just going to use the same thing I've been already doing. I'm going to hold down Alt Option, and I'm going to click and drag this over here. Okay, and now this is going to be my watercolor layer. Now if you want a quick way to kind of see which layer you're on is if you right click over any part of an image, it's going to give you a list of all the different layers. So if I right click right now, it's showing me that here I've got the watercolor layer and layer 1. So watercolor is what I used. Sweet, now I don't have to look for it over there. So now I can just go ahead and double click on where it says stained glass and change that to watercolor. Okay, now it's not centered anymore, but don't worry about that yet. We're going to take care of that in the next step. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and add all of the text to all of these different areas. I recommend you do the same thing. Go ahead and pause and start adding text over everything with the correct filter names. Okay, so I've got all my text in now, and you can see that, you know, nothing's really lined up right. So let's go ahead and get this text lined up. So if I come up here to my text layers, first of all, I want to go ahead and line up these three so they're all centered. So I'm going to go ahead and click on stained glass. Then I'm going to hold down Command and I'm going to click on crystallize and then liquefy. So when we're in the move tool, we have some options right up here when you have multiple things selected that help you align. So I can align to the left, and now all the left sides are aligned. I can align center, I can align right. For this, yeah, I think I'm just going to click on center. Alright, we're going to keep on center and we're good there. So let's go ahead and do the same thing for watercolor. So I'm going to click on watercolor, then I'm going to hold down Command, click on zigzag, and then oil paint, and click on center. Then I'm going to click on motion blur, hold down Command, click on wind in my pixelize / mosaic, and click center. Oop, did I click center? Yeah, they're just all centered over there. All right, so there they are, and oh, while I had those, I should have moved them all to the center of here too. Oh well, it's okay, it's quick. Let's go ahead and watercolor, hold down Command, zigzag, oil paint, and let's just move over just a bit. Okay, we're looking good. Alright, and next we have stained glass. I'm going to hold down Command, crystallize, and liquefy, and move this. That's in the center. Looking good. Now we also have to worry about these being centered with each other. We want to keep everything nice and in line. So let's go ahead and take care of those. So first we're going to go with stained glass, and then I need to hold down Command and select watercolor and then motion blur. And now we're going to use these ones over here. So this has a centering right there. Sweet. Just off just a little bit. Crystallize, holding down Command, clicking on zigzag and then wind, and hit the center. Cool. And do I need to move it up a little bit? Maybe just a little bit. I'm just going to, while I have all these three selected, I'm just going to hit up a couple times on the keyboard. All right, looking good. And last but not least, we have liquefy, holding down Command now and clicking oil paint and pixelize. And we want to go ahead and center these. And then I'm going to hit down a couple times on this one. All right, it's looking pretty good. Awesomeness. So where were we over here? All right, so now we need to decrease the opacity of the rectangles so we can see through them a little bit so we can see what's going on with the image. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this first rectangle layer. I'm going to hold down Shift and then click on the last one. And now I'm going to come up here and to the opacity slider. So I'm going to click here, just take that opacity down. There's not a set place, just kind of until, I mean, we want it to be dark enough for us to, for the white not to like blend into the image, but it doesn't, you know, we want to be able to see through as well. So I think that works pretty well. Yeah, starting to lose it a little bit on some of these. Let's go back up a little bit. All right, looking good. So we can see the image, we can read the text. All right. So let's see, what else do we need to do? We need to go ahead and hide the guides and then check to make sure there's no alignment issues. Now, because I put that black background, we're not going to see any edges or anything, so we should be okay. I'm going to hit Command and semicolon. Uh-oh. Oh, okay, so the problem is, if you see right up here at the top of my screen, it says Chrome. That's because I clicked in Chrome last. This is a Mac thing. If you're in Windows, this doesn't matter to you. But to bring that back up, I just need to click on my Photoshop window, and now we have Photoshop going again. All right, so what the heck was I doing? Oh, yeah, hiding the guides. All right, Command semicolon. All right, we have no guides. It's looking pretty good. Now, the only thing I'm not liking is right over here. You see how the rectangle isn't hitting that bottom of the image. So I'm going to go ahead and click away on something else. I'm going to right click right over here and rectangle 1 copy. All right, that's the one I need. And I'm just going to hit down a couple times. All right, looking good. Okay, let's zoom back out. Okay, this is looking pretty good. And you can see I've got all my different layers. Oh man, I'm loving all these filters. These ones are really like similar in a way, but okay. All right. Don't get distracted, Emily. I just love looking at all this stuff. It's so fun. Okay. I'm going to hit Command 0 so it gets back to fitting on the screen. Okay, so now we need to make sure we're saving our file. So I'm going to hit Command S to save. And this is the time where we need to go ahead and take our screenshot. So let me go ahead and get this ready for a screenshot. Let me drag this on over. Now, right now I have my layers panel set to have large thumbnails so it's easier for you guys to see. Now, for the screenshot, so it's easier for me to see more of your layers, I'm going to go ahead and change this. I'm going to come up here and click on these little lines and come down here to Panel Options. And here we can click what size thumbnail we want. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the smallest and hit OK. And now you see that all of this has kind of gotten a lot smaller. Now I don't need to see all of your layers for this assignment because I'm going to be able to see what you did over here, but I do need to see as many as possible in case there's an issue. So what else do we need to do? We need to make sure we're getting our history panel. Same thing with this. I don't need to see all of it. You don't need to take multiple screenshots if it doesn't all fit there. But I do need to see some of it so I see that you did the work. Okay, we're all set up for our screenshot. Let's go ahead and take it. Nice. And now that we have this, let's go ahead and let's go back to our instructions real quick. Make sure I'm doing the same thing I'm telling you guys to do. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and export our file. This is a little differently than how we've saved in the past, but let's try it out. So I'm going to go to File, Then I'm going to go to Export, Export As. I'm going to click here, and we're going to enter in some specific things. So first off, I want my format to be JPEG. Okay, coolio. We have JPEG. For the quality, I don't have it here, but hey, let's go ahead and put great. Why not be great? Then we're going to go to our image size. So for the image size, I want you to enter 1000 for the largest size, because it should say pixels. 1000 pixels is what we're going for here. Now if you have a horizontal image like this, then you're going to put it for the width. You see how right now my width says 5000 and my height says 3000. The width is the largest number. That's the one I want to replace with 1000. Now if you have a vertical image, like a portrait image, you know, like portrait orientation or whatever, you'll have to put 1000 in for your height, because that will be the longest side for that. So I'm going to go ahead and put in 1000. And when I hit enter, it automatically changes the values here, so we're good to go. The last thing I need to make sure is that the color space is checked on for convert to sRGB. We're going to be looking at these on a screen, so we want to make sure that we're in the sRGB color space. Okay, so I'm going to hit export, and the next thing we're going to do is we have the same options as a usual save, where we can change the file name and change the location. So right over here, I'm going to replace the working with Canvas. And I'm doing this is just a good habit to get into, is I'm saving it for where I'm going to be using it. In this case, I'm going to be turning it into Canvas. Now if you're, for example, creating something for Facebook, you'd want to put Facebook at the end. This is helpful for you to be organized and know exactly what a file is for, but it also gets really handy when you're working with clients or with an employer and multiple people are going to be using these files. It'll be easier for them to see what it's going to be used for. It's going to make you look like a pro. So make sure that you're renaming that, and we can go ahead and click Save. Now once again, I've already done this once, so it's going to ask me if I want to replace it. I'm just going to say yes. All right, and it's saved, and we're all done. Now all you got to do is turn in your JPEG and turn in your screenshot, and the assignment is complete. I hope you had just as much fun as I did learning all about filters.